My name is Lauren Harper. I am 34 years old. I used to believe that love stories had happy endings, that marriage vows were unbreakable, and that the person who protect you would never, ever be the one trying to kill you. I was wrong. 3 weeks ago, I woke up inside a body that was no longer mine. My arms wouldn't move. My legs wouldn't move. My mouth wouldn't open. Even my eyelids refused to obey me. A machine pushed air into my lungs. Tubes ran down my throat. Monitors screamed every time my heart tried to give up. But my mind was wide awake, perfectly clear, trapped. For 14 endless days, I lay in that hospital bed, unable to speak, unable to scream, while the man I had loved for almost a decade stood over me and planned my funeral with the woman who had replaced me. This is the story of how I heard every secret, every dollar they were going to steal from my death, and exactly how he cut my brake lines in the middle of the night, and how I turned my silence into the weapon that destroyed them both. If you're ready for the longest, darkest, most heartbreaking true crime story you will ever hear, stay with me until the very last word. Let's go back to the life I thought was perfect. Ethan Brooks walked into my English Literature 201 class like he owned the room. Tall, dark hair, green eyes that crinkled when he smiled, and a confidence that made professors listen when he spoke. I was the quiet girl in the front row, cardigan sleeves pulled over my hands, quoting Pride and Prejudice under my breath. He sat beside me, leaned over, and whispered, "So, Elizabeth Bennet, will you marry me someday?" The whole class laughed. I turned red. 3 years later, I said yes for real. We married the summer after graduation. He started flipping houses. I started teaching high school juniors. By our 8th anniversary, his company was worth 8 figures. We bought a restored 1896 Victorian house with a wraparound porch, stained glass windows, and a library room that smelled like vanilla and old books. We traveled to Italy, Costa Rica, Santorini. Every Friday night was date night, no phones, no excuses. We kept a notebook of baby names we loved. I came home every single day feeling like the luckiest woman alive. Then, 15 months before the crash, he hired Chloe Everett. 26, blonde, sharp, beautiful in that effortless way that makes other women feel invisible. Within weeks, her name was in every conversation. Chloe closed the Riverside project today. Chloe stayed until 2 a.m. helping me with contracts. Chloe has to come to the gala. She knows all the investors. I told myself it was professional admiration, nothing more. But Chloe started appearing in places she had no reason to be. She was at our house until 3 a.m. after Ethan's birthday party, helping clean while I slept on the couch. She was at the office Christmas party, sitting on the arm of his chair, laughing at his jokes a little too hard. She was in his private office when I dropped off homemade soup, her hand resting on his forearm like it belonged there. My best friend Megan pulled me aside one night and said, "Lauren, that woman wants your life." My brother looked me in the eye and said, "If that was my wife, I'd be worried sick." I shut them both down. I called myself jealous, insecure, crazy, because admitting the truth felt like watching my entire world crack in half. 6 months before the crash, the warmth disappeared overnight. No more surprise hugs while I graded papers. No more falling asleep with his arm around me. No more I love you texts in the middle of the day. He was always on his phone, always stepping outside to take calls, always running to the office on Saturdays. When I finally asked what was wrong, he sighed like I was a burden and said, "Babe, this new development is the biggest deal of my career. Once it closes, everything goes back to normal. I promise." I swallowed the ache. I believed him because the alternative was too terrifying. October 17th. Parent-teacher conferences ran until 9:30 p.m. It was pouring rain, thick sheets that turned the freeway into a mirror of headlights. I pressed the pedal. Nothing. I pressed harder. Still nothing. Panic exploded in my chest like a bomb. I pumped the brake again and again. I yanked the steering wheel. The car hydroplaned. An 18-wheeler filled my windshield. The last thing I remember is screaming Ethan's name. Then darkness. When consciousness returned, I wasn't back. I was imprisoned inside my own body. I could hear the hiss of the ventilator pushing air into my lungs. I could feel the tubes. I could hear doctors talking over me like I was already gone. Severe traumatic brain injury, multiple fractures, internal bleeding. EEG shows minimal activity. Persistent vegetative state is the most likely outcome. I wanted to scream, "I'm right here. I can hear you." But I couldn't move a single muscle. Ethan was there every day at first, holding my hand, crying, whispering, "Fight, baby, come back to me." He squeezed my fingers like I could squeeze back. It was the performance of a lifetime. Day 5 in the ICU. I smelled her perfume before anything else, something expensive and floral that made my stomach twist. The mattress dipped as 2 people sat right beside me. Ethan's voice dropped to a whisper. "Part of me wishes she never wakes up. Even if she did, she wouldn't be Lauren anymore. It would be cruel to keep her alive like this." Chloe answered softly, "I know, baby. This is so hard for you." Then the soft rustle of fabric as she rested her head on his shoulder, the quiet sound of their hands intertwining. Right there, inches from my paralyzed body. My heart tried to explode out of my chest. I wanted to die in that moment, just let go. But something inside me refused. For the next 14 days, they visited every single day. In front of nurses and doctors, the grieving husband and his devoted assistant. The second the door closed, 2 people planning a future built on my grave. I heard everything. The affair had started 9 months earlier at a real estate conference in Vegas. One night turned into secret lunches, late-night texts, entire weekends away, while Ethan told me he was at leadership retreats. They were already looking at engagement rings. They had spreadsheets. They priced out my death like a business transaction. $2 million life insurance policy, accidental death equals double indemnity. $1.3 million equity in our mortgage-free house. My teacher's pension plus district death benefit equals another $800,000. Total, just over $4 million. They had saved listings for a $2.8 million downtown penthouse loft with floor-to-ceiling windows and a rooftop terrace. They had first-class flights booked to the Maldives for the month after my funeral. Chloe even stood in front of the mirror in my hospital room, trying on the sapphire earrings Ethan gave me for our 5th anniversary, turning her head side to side and asking, "Do these look better on me?" Then came the night I will never forget as long as I live. They thought the nurse was gone for an hour. They pulled 2 chairs close together, knees touching. Chloe's voice was light, almost playful. "So, did you actually cut the brake lines like we talked about, or was the rain just perfect timing?" Long silence. Ethan answered, low and proud, "I did it. 3 a.m., 2 nights before the crash. Found a YouTube tutorial. Practiced on an old car at the salvage yard so I'd get the angle right. Sliced them almost all the way through. By the time she hit the interstate in that storm, they snapped clean. Looked exactly like hydroplaning. No one will ever know." Chloe whispered, "You're brilliant." Something inside me died in that moment, and something far more dangerous was born. Pure, ice-cold rage. Now I knew the truth. This wasn't just betrayal. This was attempted murder. And I was the only one who knew. I lay there for days, drowning in that knowledge, screaming inside a body that would not scream. Then came Mia Rodriguez, 29 years old, ICU nurse with kind eyes and a voice like warm honey. Every single morning, she greeted me like I was still a person. "Good morning, Lauren. The sun is shining today. We're going to get through this together, okay?" One morning, she was adjusting the ventilator tube and noticed tears sliding down my cheeks, tears I couldn't control or stop. She froze. "Lauren, are you crying? Can you hear me?" I gathered every last piece of will I had left and forced my right eyelid to flutter. Mia's eyes filled with tears of her own. She grabbed a letterboard and spent the next 10 exhausting hours pointing to rows and columns. Letter by agonizing letter, I spelled HUSBANTRIDOKILLM for insurance. Mia's hand flew to her mouth. She believed me instantly. That night, she hid her phone behind a vase of flowers and recorded everything. Ethan and Chloe laughing about my convenient accident, choosing which island resort to visit first, finalizing the exact day they would withdraw life support. The next morning, the neurologist confirmed it. Classic locked-in syndrome. Fully conscious, completely paralyzed, except for tiny eye movements. Mia called my sister Grace. The police were already waiting. They set the most beautiful trap in criminal history. Ethan walked into my room carrying a clipboard, expecting to sign paperwork to let me go peacefully. Hidden detectives in the corner, microphones in the flowers, cameras rolling. He sat beside me, took my hand, and lied smoothly about a do not resuscitate conversation we never had. He asked how quickly the insurance company would pay out. He bragged that the brakes had been so worn no one would ever suspect. Then the lead detective stepped forward and pressed play. Ethan's own voice filled the room. I did it. Practiced on a junkyard car. Looked exactly like hydroplaning. His face collapsed. He looked at me, really looked for the first time in weeks. He saw my eyes tracking him, alive, aware, burning. "Lauren, you heard everything?" I blinked once, slowly, deliberately. Handcuffs clicked. Chloe was arrested an hour later wearing yoga pants and sunglasses, trying to leave town. Forensics confirmed the deliberate cuts on the brake lines, clean, precise, almost surgical. Security footage showed Ethan at a salvage yard 3 weeks earlier, hood up, practicing on an old SUV. 4 separate recordings, ironclad evidence. 8 months later, I testified from my wheelchair, using a computer that spoke for me. The jury cried. Ethan was sentenced to life in prison with no parole for 25 years. Chloe took a plea, 15 years. 2 years have passed. I walk with a cane now. I teach full-time again. My students threw a party when I came back. I just returned from the Maldives, the exact trip they booked with my death money. I stood on the deck of an overwater bungalow at sunset, opened the urn that held the ashes of that marriage, and let the wind carry every last piece into the Indian Ocean. I smiled bigger than I have in years. I'm dating a man who knows what real love feels like. Quiet, steady, safe. My house is small, bright, filled with books and sunlight, and 100% mine. Mia and I have wine nights every Thursday. We laugh until we cry. And every morning, Ethan wakes up in a 6x8 concrete cell, knowing I am out here living the life he tried to steal. Living well is the sweetest revenge. So to every woman watching right now, trust your gut. Never ignore the red flags, and never, ever underestimate a woman who refuses to die. This is Lauren Harper, still breathing, still teaching, still winning.